Welcome to SB 67D Principles of Management 1. We're going to focus our discussion in this session 3, on the levels of management. We're still in Unit 1, looking at the nature of management. My name is Felicia Frida Aidan Akwak. By the end of the session, you should be able to explain the 3 levels of management. You should be able to also give examples of job positions which are related to the various levels of management you're going to be discussing. And you should also be able to describe the activities performed by managers at these 3 various levels and explain the areas of management as well. So to kickstart, like you made mention in our earlier session, that there are 3 main levels of management, which is the top level, the middle level, and the lower level. At the top level, we have managers who are actually in charge of the overall being of the organization. And so for these people, it's like when you go into your homes, the parent is in charge of the overall well-being of the family, of the home, whether it's the father, it's the mother, it's them together. At the end of the day, the top management in every home is the parent, who are responsible for the overall well-being of the home. And so when it comes to businesses, it comes to institutions and all those ones, when it comes to top level management, we're looking at those who are in charge of actually having the broad objectives and policies for the enterprise as a whole. And we're saying that they actually give us issues, instructions for preparation of the departmental budget, schedules, etc. Everything that has to be done in the organization, the overall thing is looked out by the top level management. And so they would usually give you instructions when it comes to even the amount of money you have at your disposal, how much you're working with for this year, and all those issues which the other levels of management would have to work with and break it down. And so the top level managers, also known as the strategic level management, they are in charge of making strategic plans. And we know strategic plans are plans which are looking at the long-term goals of the whole organization. And so we're looking at strategic plans, looking at 10 years, 20 years, 30 years plans. And so, but that also depends on the type of organization and the size of the organization. For some organizations, 5 years may be a strategic plan for them, but usually you get about 10 years for strategic plans. And these top level management are the ones who are in charge of making that corporate strategic plan or the corporate plans for their businesses. And we're saying that they also appoint key executives for the middle level, especially the departmental managers. And so when you go into every organization, usually it is the managing directors who would appoint the HR, appoint the finance, appoint, yes. And so these top level managers are the ones who actually appoint our middle level department or departmental managers. And they also control and coordinate the activities of the department. We're saying that after the top level, we have the middle level. The middle level usually are the functional heads. And then we're saying that management is not done isolation. They are all interrelated and interconnected and interdependent. And there's a need for us to coordinate these activities to make it wholesome. And so this top level people are actually in charge of what? Controlling and coordinating the activities of the various departments in the organization. They're also responsible for maintaining contact with the outside world. So when it comes to top level management, they're not only looking at issues within the organization as a whole, but they're also looking at the organization with the environment as well. The perception they are creating out there, the image they are creating out there, the links and all those things they're having with other external stakeholders. And we learn the stakeholder concept in your fundamentals of business. And so when it comes to top level management, they are very, very key in every organization. They also provide guidance and direction, especially when it comes to the business, because they look at everything as a whole. And so whenever there are issues and everything, we need to fall on these people to give us more clarity and more direction as to what to do and how to go about it. So at the end of the day, we do not deviate from what we want to achieve. And the top level management, they are also responsible when it comes to looking at the interests of shareholders and the performance of the enterprise, especially for companies where you have shareholders. There's a need for the top level managers, because the shareholders will not be in the business on the day-to-day to check how the business is running for them to get their monies and their dividends. And so the top level management often is very key, because they are going to they're going to be in charge of electing the managing director, making sure that at the end of the day the person is working in the interest of not just themselves or the company, but looking out for the interest of the shareholders. And so when it comes to companies which have shareholders, this top level management role is very, very key in there as well. We also have the middle level management, and which is basically a link between the top and then the lower level management. And these are usually the functional heads, and usually they help break the corporate strategies or the big policies the top level people bring into more operational or more functional based tasks for those and that to be able to do. And so management has, a top level has come up with a 10-year plan for the university, a corporate strategy for the university for the next 10 years. The various units or departments would have to look out for what they can also do their quota to that 10-year plan, and then break it down to know that, okay, we're going to be doing this for this year, this for the next year, this for the next year. These are the people who are going to be in charge of this on the ground. And so when it comes to the middle level, they are also very key in there. And we call them the tactical level management as well. So they execute the plans of the organization in accordance to the policies and directives of the top level management. They are not formulating any new thing of their own, but they have to make sure that whatever the top level people bring it, they make it more digestible for the lower level. And then they make plans for the various sub-units of the organization. And then they participate in employment and training of lower level management. Yes, you have to, in organizations, when you recruit, it doesn't just end at recruiting. People would need also training as well and development to make them fit for the roles you are doing and make them fit for achieving the task that is required of them. They also send important reports as well as data to the top level management because they are the link between what the lower and then the top. So you can't just get up from a supervisor or a foreman can't just wake up and just go straight up to the proprietor or the owner or the main, like the top boss in that company or that business or that venture. You'd have to go through your middle level to get to them. And so there's a need when it comes to data work or data issues and things. The middle level is also key in there. They're also responsible for coordinating activities within their division or their department. So like I made mention, typically middle level tend to be more of the functional head. So you may have someone who is in charge of marketing, someone a role which is for finance or procurement and supply chain. And so you realize that all the issues relating to finance will be handled by the finance manager, looking at everything in that financial department or division of the organization. They also interpret and explain policies from the top level to the lower level. So there are some buhahas and all those things. You're not getting what these people have created in their corporate strategy. This middle level, which is a link, is going to make sure that they break it down to make it understandable for the lower level to be able to also execute the tasks on the ground. They also evaluate performance of junior managers as well. And so there's a lot of appraisals that are done by the middle level to ensure that performance is always at what its peak or what is supposed to be. And they're also responsible for inspiring lower level managers towards what better performance. So leadership also comes in here. The middle level managers are in charge of making sure that the lower level managers are well inspired to do the work as they ought to do. Then we come to the lower level management, also known as the operational level management. For those people, they are actually the ones who are in charge of assigning the jobs or tasks to the various workers who are actually going to do the work. And so they guide and instruct workers when it comes to the day-to-day activities of the company or the business. And these people are also responsible for quality and quantity of production, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who are looking out for the actual work being carried out. So in the university, at the end of the day, we have our clientele, the students who are here learning. Now, your lecturers and things would have to make sure that the quality and quantities, when it comes to the quality of education you are getting, someone has to check it. And so you have heads of department who are going to ensure that, okay, in the business department, the lecturers in there are actually giving the quality of what business education our students need there. So you realize that these lower level managers, they ensure that the right quality and quantity, depending on what you are doing, is being met. And they also entrust the responsibility of what? Maintaining good relationships within the organization. If you're looking at relationship outside the organization, they were looking at the top level. But within the organization, especially at the lower level, it is very important there, because the lower level, we have more people over there, more workers who are actually doing the thing. And so you need to make sure that there is that coordination in there to get the work properly done, else the maintenance and things can actually cause some sort of disruptions in there as well. And then they communicate workers' problems to higher levels as well. So these are also, if there's a problem, your head of department or your head of the business unit or the head of the unit you find yourself, you realize that they are going to push it up for you. That maybe our students are struggling to do their registration, our students' timetables are not coming out properly or something. So whenever there is problems on the ground, these lower level managers help what make these suggestions to the higher levels for them to also solve it. And then they also solve the grievances of workers. Yes, if you have any problem, if you're on the site, you realize that your supervisor, if there's any problem on the site, your supervisor will be the first person you go to, who would also seek to solve it. When there are any conflicts and all those issues that come up, as your lower level manager, who is supposed to handle it on the ground, on the floor, on the play of ground. Yes, and then they supervise and guide subordinates. So when it comes to the various people or the various workers, individual workers who are in there performing the work, your supervisors or your foremen or your lower level managers would have to ensure that these people are really doing the work by supervising them and then guiding them as and when they are going off and they need some direction as well. And they're also responsible for providing training to the workers. You realize that usually this lower level managers have some bit of the technical skills the workers are using, and so when you realize that they are not doing as they are supposed to do, then you do some training for them. And so depending on the organization you find yourself, the training would vary. So like in education like this, you realize that if your head of department realizes that maybe the students' performance or the how do you call it, the quality assurance the students do, the report you guys do to assess the lecturers, maybe one is coming up that the lecturers are not up to date, or there are some things they are not doing well, their head of department is obviously going to call for them and say, okay, well, this is what the students are also saying, this is what is happening, this is the result we are getting. That could mean that this is not well done or this is not well done. Maybe the resources we need is not enough. Then we need to give you new resources. Those new resources, we need to train you to be able to use it to make good output in them. And so the lower level managers are in charge of providing training for the workers they are working with on the field or on the play of work. And they arrange for the necessary materials, machines, and tools for work to be able to go on. Because if you're going to do the main work on the field, we need resources, we need tools, we need machines, and as the lower level managers who are going to look out for these and then get it to them. They provide periodic reports about the performance of workers. Once a lower level manager reports writing is something which is key, because the top level and the middle level, they will need these for their reports as well. They want to know what is happening on the ground, and because these are the ones working with the people actually on the ground, they are the best people to do the report, and they ensure discipline within the enterprise as well, and they are in charge of motivating the workers they are working on. Now, like we made mention in the earlier session, there are 3 key levels of management: the top level, the middle level, and the lower level. The beauty is that at every level of management, all managers perform the same managerial functions. The only thing is that the degree to which they do them is what different. So whether you're at the top level, middle level, or lower level, you still be planning, organizing, leading, and then controlling. But we realize that at the top level, there is more planning which is being done. So you realize that at the top level, there's more planning, there's a bit of the organizing, a bit of leading, and a bit of what controlling. They are in different degrees. And when we come to the middle level, we realize that yes, there's also a bit more of what planning, there's also a bit more of leading, a bit more of controlling, and there's also what organizing in there, but the degrees are different. And you realize that at the lower level, it is more of what leading. Technically, you realize that when we're talking about the roles of the top level, we're making mention of they making decisions, plans for the company or for the business as a whole, dealing with the external environment and all those things. For these people, their work centers a lot on strategic planning. And so we have a lot of their focus, a lot of their work delving into what planning. However, when they plan, they also have to organize some few things to make sure that these things can have or its place in there. And they need to lead because there are people under them. The middle level people are people they are going to be working with, and they need to be able to what influence them to get the work. Even when it comes to the external environment, the external stakeholders and things, they should be able to what influence them. And so leading is also key in there. But you realize that it's not as big as what planning. Most of their work centers on what planning. And obviously controlling is key wherever you find yourself, because these strategic plans could go off or something, and so you need to what constantly be monitoring to make sure that the strategic plans they have set in place is actually what meeting what they said they were going to what do. You realize that at the middle level management, there's also planning, because whatever comes from the top level, you have to be able to what break it down for those at the lower level. You'd have to also organize, because in the various departments, in the various functional units, there are things you need to what get in place. There are systems, procedures, relationships, working relationships, and responsibilities and duties. You'd have to what be able to what fully organize. Authority you'd have to also what set in place and give out for people to be able to what do this function. And there's also leading which comes in there, because you'll be working with people, and you realize that over here you are not just going to influence the workers who are down here, you're also going to have to work with those at the top here as well. And so when it comes to the middle level, it is very key. The human skills is very critical in there, because you are working with those below and those up, and leading is very key when working with people. And they also do controlling, because yes, they have set systems, they have set procedures, they have grouped or organized their tasks, their responsibility, authority, and all those things. But we know that things can go wrong, things can go off the line. There may be deviations and things, and so you always have to be on the lookout to be able to what correct these as and when they happen. At the lower level managers, where we have more of our supervisors who are actually doing the real things, the operational things, the things on the ground, you realize that for these people, yes, they do planning, but the planning is very minimum, because a lot of the plans that have already come to them, they may have to just finalize a few, do some few schedules, some few budgets and things, but most of the planning is done at the top. That comes to them, and so planning is few there. Don't forget that they'll be doing reports and all those things, and so all you realize that controlling is also few there, because for these people, yes, you also need to organize. They need to be able to, yes, you have workers, 20 workers under you, 30 workers who are doing the main work. Now we have to group these people into teams, into groups, find out how they work together and all those things. Be able to have to what, get them the resources they need to actually do the work on the floor, motivation and all those things. And so you need to organize all the things you need to get the work done. And for these people, realize that leading is like the most they do, because they work with a lot of people and they are actually in charge of workers on the ground. In every business, you realize that those who are actually doing the work are always more than those who are at the top level managers. Look at the University of Cape Coast. We have a lot of administrative staff, a lot of lecturers, as compared to the number of people in the top management position. It is normal, because the people who are needed to get the actual work done on the ground would always be more than those at the top level. And so leading is very key for you to be able to influence these people. Your lecturers have to be enough to be able to influence the students. You also need your administrators there to also be able to influence the workflow and the linkages as well. You need the tertiary education workers as well to also help when it comes to even cleaning and other work that has to be done for the school to move on, or for the school to function properly. And so you realize that at the lower level, more of leading takes place as compared to even planning, as compared to organizing, as compared to controlling. But these are things they also have to do, because at the end of the day, your workers are working not in isolation. There are things you need to achieve, and so you need to be controlling to make sure that whenever there's deviation, they are corrected as well. So the areas of management, we realize that typically when it comes to functional areas, you may have, depends on first and foremost the size of the organization, the type of organization you have, and sometimes even the size of it. So if it's a small organization, you may not have a lot of areas in there, but if it's a very large one, you may have number of them. Typically, you may have some in charge of human resource, which is all about the people when it comes to how we recruit, how we retain, how we even let go of workers. All those functions relating to the people management is at the human resource. We have the operations, the day-to-day things we need to do to be able to get our product or our service out there. Those are all handled at the operations part. We have marketing, where we need to make sure that once the things have been produced at the operation side, whether it's a product or a service, we should be able to get it out to the people we intend for them to have it. And so we need to look at our sales, look at all those things in the marketing function. We need finance, because yes, all these things we've spoken about, it needs money. Yes, you need money to pay the people, you need money to organize the resources, you need money for virtually everything in your business. And so finance is key. How we're going to even attract finance, how we're going to work with finance, how we're going to even invest if there's excesses, how you're going to save, and all those ones. Those are also key when it comes to management. Information is very critical, because what you know gives you more advantage. What you don't know also hinders you. And so how are you going to even monitor for information, how are you going to disseminate information, and most importantly, when there are things go wrong, how are you going to even clear those issues is also important in them. Other functions like public relations, research and development, like I said, depends on the type of organization and the size of your organization. These could become more than that. And so when it comes to the areas of management, you may have these or many more depending on the size of your organization, the type of organization you are as well. So in this section, we looked at the 3 levels of management, which is the top level, the middle level, and the lower level. We also looked at the areas of management, and then we looked at, in your book, you're going to have the change and future of management, because we've seen management move from the traditional management or managers to now the contemporary managers. And so you can check your textbook for that table as well. And yes, we'll see you in the next session. Thank you.